Closeness with God is not random. It does not come and go without reason. There are specific things, specific postures of the heart that draw you near to Him. And there are things that push you away. Today you are going to discover 5 things that consistently bring you closer to God. Not religious rituals, not empty routines, but real biblical soul-deep practices that position your heart for intimacy. James chapter 4 verse 8 says, "Draw near to God and He will draw near to you." That verse is both a promise and an invitation. God is not hiding. He is not playing hard to get. He is waiting. And when you take even one small step toward Him, He responds. He always responds. By the end of this message, you will have 5 clear, practical, life-giving ways to close the distance and experience the closeness you have been longing for. Number 1, honest confession without hiding. Nothing creates distance faster than unconfessed sin. Not because God leaves you, but because you instinctively pull away. When Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, what did they do? They hid. God did not move. They did. And that pattern continues in every human heart. When you have something you are ashamed of, something you have not brought into the light, your natural instinct is to avoid God. You skip prayer. You keep worship surface level. You fill the silence with noise so you do not have to face what is unsettled between you and Him. But confession breaks that cycle. 1 John chapter 1 verse 9 says, "If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us." Confession is not about informing God of something He does not already know. It is about agreeing with Him. It is stepping out of hiding and saying, "You were right, and I need your grace." Honest confession does something powerful. It clears the air. It removes the barrier that was never on His side to begin with. And every time you confess honestly, you experience the relief of a restored connection, not because you earned it, because you finally stopped blocking it. There is no such thing as a clean heart without confession. It is not about being perfect. It is about being honest. And honesty with God is one of the fastest ways to feel close to Him again. Number 2, stillness that makes space for His voice. Your life is loud. Notifications, deadlines, entertainment. Even good things like ministry and family can fill every available moment until silence feels foreign. But God rarely shouts over your noise. He speaks in the stillness. Psalm 46 verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness is not laziness. It is not wasted time. It is the deliberate decision to stop moving, stop talking, stop consuming, and simply be present with your Creator. Jesus Himself modeled this. The Gospels repeatedly show Him withdrawing to lonely places to pray. He had crowds pressing in. He had urgent needs all around Him, yet He prioritized solitude with the Father. If Jesus needed that, how much more do you? Stillness creates space for 2 things. First, it quiets your own thoughts long enough to hear His. Second, it reminds your soul that your value is not in what you produce. You are not a human doing. You are a human being. And being with God is the foundation of closeness with God. Try this. 5 minutes tomorrow. No phone, no music, no agenda. Just you and Him in the quiet. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is a sign of how much you needed it. Stillness is not empty. It is the room where intimacy grows. Number 3, obedience that moves before understanding. There are things God has already asked you to do. Maybe through His word, maybe through a quiet prompting, maybe through a sermon that felt like it was aimed directly at your heart. And you have been waiting for clarity, waiting for the right timing, waiting until it makes sense. But delayed obedience is still disobedience. And every time you delay, a small layer of distance settles between you and God. Not because He is punishing you, but because intimacy and disobedience cannot coexist comfortably. Jesus said in John chapter 14, verse 15, "If you love me, keep my commands." Obedience is the language of love. It is not about earning His favor. It is about aligning your heart with His. And when you obey, something shifts. The closeness you have been asking for often follows the obedience you have been avoiding. You do not need to understand everything before you move. Abraham left his homeland without knowing the destination. The disciples dropped their nets without a 5-year plan. Trust is built step by step, and each step of obedience brings you closer than 100 hours of study without action. Ask yourself honestly, what has God asked of you that you have not yet done? That single step of obedience might be the very thing standing between you and the intimacy you are seeking. Number 4, gratitude that shifts your focus. It is easy to focus on what is missing, the unanswered prayer, the struggle that will not end, the blessing someone else received that you are still waiting for. And when your attention stays fixed on what you lack, distance grows. Not because God changed, but because your perspective did. Gratitude is not pretending everything is perfect. It is choosing to remember what is true. And the truth is, even in your hardest season, God is still faithful. You are still breathing. His mercies are still new every morning. Psalm 100 verse 4 says, "Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise." Thanksgiving is the doorway. It is the entry point into his presence. You cannot complain your way into closeness with God, but you can thank your way there. Gratitude does something neurologically and spiritually. It rewires your brain to notice goodness. It shifts your eyes from the storm to the one who calms it. And when you start naming what God has done, big and small, the distance you felt begins to shrink. Try this practice. Every day for the next week, write down 3 things you are grateful for. Specific things, small things, the warmth of sunlight, a moment of peace, a conversation that mattered. Watch how gratitude clears the fog and brings his presence into sharper focus. Closeness with God is not found in getting more. It is found in recognizing what he has already given. Number 5, surrounding yourself with people who draw you toward him. You become like the people you spend the most time with. This is true in every area of life, and it is especially true spiritually. If your closest relationships are with people who never talk about God, never challenge you to grow, and never pray with you, your passion will slowly cool. Proverbs 13 verse 20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." This is not about isolating yourself from everyone who is not a believer. Jesus spent time with sinners, but his inner circle, his closest community, were those who shared his mission and sharpened his heart toward the Father. You need people who will pray with you when you are struggling, people who will speak truth when you are believing lies, people whose faith inspires your own. Community is not optional for spiritual growth. It is essential. In Acts chapter 2, the early believers devoted themselves to fellowship. They met together. They broke bread together. They prayed together. And the presence of God was powerful among them. There is a kind of closeness with God that you will only experience in the context of godly community. Do you have at least 1 or 2 people who genuinely pull you closer to God? If not, ask him to bring them into your life and be willing to be that person for someone else. A shared faith is a strengthened faith, and walking together brings you closer to him than walking alone ever could. These 5 things are not complicated. Honest confession that clears the air, stillness that makes space for his voice, obedience that moves before understanding, gratitude that shifts your focus, and community that pulls you toward him. None of these require perfection. None of these require you to have everything figured out. They simply require a willing heart, a heart that says, "God, I want more of you. I am tired of distance. I am ready to draw near." And here is the beautiful truth. He is already near. He has been near all along. The distance you feel is often just an invitation to turn around and find that he never moved. James chapter 4 verse 8 promises, "Draw near to God and he will draw near to you." That is not a maybe. That is a guarantee. Your move toward him, no matter how small, is always met with his movement toward you. Always. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs encouragement in their walk with God. Comment below, "God, I am drawing near to you." And subscribe for more messages that help you grow closer to him in a real and practical way. The closeness you are longing for is not far away. It is one honest step in his direction.